Thank you for joining us, everybody. We will begin our presentation shortly. In the meantime, please note closed captioning is available tonight. If you don't already see captioning on the bottom of your screen, you may need to click the closed captioning symbol in your YouTube viewer. And we will get started in just 1 minute. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Welcome, welcome. My name is Katie McGinn, and I am the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. We're all very thrilled that you're joining us tonight to learn more about the comprehensive plan process, and we hope that you will continue to stay involved with us throughout this process, which you'll hear lots about tonight. Okay, great. So I'm going to walk us through tonight's topics. I'll start us off with an overview of our committee and our mission. And then next, we're going to answer some key questions. So what is a comprehensive plan and why does Lewisboro need an updated one? That's number one. Number two, how will the process of updating this plan work? Three, how can you get involved? And finally, how can you participate specifically in our kickoff survey? So stay tuned for the answer to all of those questions. Okay, so first I want to introduce you to your steering committee members. We have 5 volunteer members and 1 wonderful dedicated administrator. I would like to take this moment to thank the awesome team that you see listed here on the screen. We have been working hard since March to get to know each other, get up to speed on best practices in the comprehensive planning field, and to lay out a robust project timeline and to-do list. It's really been a pleasure, so thank you so much, everybody. Among us, we have quite the range of professional experience. It's particularly helpful for this project. We have a lot of ground to cover, and each of us brings a really unique skill set to the table. So I'll walk you through each committee member and our administrator's professional areas of expertise. So first, we have Charlene. Her area of expertise is municipal law and government. Next, we have John, whose area of expertise is business analytics and technology. And Kirsten, who's our wonderful administrator, her professional area of expertise is historic preservation and urban redevelopment. Next, we have Larry, whose background is in real estate, finance, and development. And we have Mark, whose background is in energy and infrastructure planning and implementation. And then there's me. My background is in finance, investments, and long-term financial planning. I'll give you some very quick personal information about me, and I'll ask my fellow committee members to do the same as they talk to you tonight throughout the presentation. So I moved to South Salem from New York City in 2016. And the goal for me and my husband were to put down roots and start a family. And my husband and I and our 1-year-old are very happy to say that we feel so grateful to be so connected to this community. And it's been wonderful putting down roots here. So on a more general note, I know I speak for the entire committee when I say that we take our responsibility as facilitators very seriously. Project facilitators, I mean. We know this project is not about us. It's about our community. It's about past, current, and future members of the Lewisboro community. And we take that responsibility very seriously. To that end, we have crafted a mission statement for our committee work, and it will guide everything we do throughout this process. So our mission statement reads, engage the Lewisboro community in order to inform the future of our town and capture this vision in an updated comprehensive plan. We need to ensure fair and equal opportunities for all members of the community in order to provide input throughout this multi-year process. So I would like to pass it off to Charlene and John now, and they will be giving us some insight into what comprehensive planning is and why it's important to us and to Lewisboro. So thank you so much. Take it away, Charlene.
Thank you, Katie. And actually, I want to thank you and Kristen for all the hard work that you've been doing. Okay, I'm Charlene Delicato. I'm recently retired and now deployed as a volunteer. I've been a government attorney or a manager most of my career in all levels of local government, state, county, city, town, village. And most importantly, I've been a resident of Lewisboro for 16 years. I consider this a privilege. I consider a privilege to be on the planning board and on the steering committee. The first question to address is, why do we need an update to the 1985 comprehensive plan? Well, first of all, it's 2021, and I think we can all agree that there have been massive developments in technology and communication, internet, computers, cell phones, not to mention Zoom, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. This last year, however, has been a wake-up call on a number of levels, not just in usual developments, but in real change. Workplace has been redefined, shopping has taken on a whole new meaning, social change, a new look at what's fair and equitable and what it really means, and of course, climate change and the necessity of sustaining the environment. We don't know where this is all going on. So we just don't. But it seems like a perfect time to go out to the community and in a transparent and inclusive manner, proactively envision the future of the town of Lewisboro as a sustainable and smart growth town. Updating the comprehensive plan will also open possibilities for loans and grants. The rule of thumb to updates is every 10 or 20 years. It has been 35 years for the Lewisboro Comprehensive Plan. It's time. We have a big job ahead of us, but I'm sure we can do it. Next slide. So now we have a strongly suggested need for the 1985 Comprehensive Plan update. What is a comprehensive plan? Well, let's go to Town Law Section 272A. The Town Comprehensive Plan means the materials written and or graphic, including but not limited to maps, charts, studies, resolutions, reports, and descriptive materials to identify the goals, objectives, principles, guidelines, policies, standards for the town. I mean, there's a lot more words, but it's all on the it'll be available to you. So that's what a comprehensive plan is. Possibly resulting in the land use regulation, which is an ordinance or local law enacted by the town for the regulation of any aspect of land use and community resource protection, and includes the zoning, subdivision, special use permit, and site plan regulation, or any other regulation which prescribes the appropriate use of property or the scale, location, and intensity of development. Special board, also mentioned in the law, can be appointed consisting of one or more of the planning board members and such other members as appointed by the town board to prepare the plan or the amendments, i.e. the steering committee. Now, the New York State legislature really thought long and hard. I mean, it's really a very comprehensive law for the New York State. But there's a number of statements they make, but the two most important that I see is B, among the most important powers and duties granted by the legislature to the town government is the authority and responsibility to undertake town comprehensive planning and to regulate land use for the purpose of protecting the public health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Okay? The second that I think is most important in this law is the participation, and the New York State Legislature states that, the participation of citizens in an open, responsible, flexible planning process essential to the designing of an optimum town comprehensive plan. In short, the plan is a document by the people for the current and future betterment of the people of the town. Next slide. Okay, it's not one of those plans that, you know, you just sort of put up shelf, dust off once in a while, say, oh, look what we did. It's really an important tool. An updated comprehensive plan will guide local decision makers with their determinations on the development of government structure as well as natural and built environments for 10 to 20 years. It will focus on immediate and long-range protection, enhancement, growth, and development of community assets by including foundations for land use control for the purpose of protecting, obviously, the health, safety, and general welfare of the community citizens, which is our police, which is the police power. The amended plan will be a basis for zoning amendments, building and wetland regulations, and general policy decisions that may be needed to accomplish the goals and objectives stated in the updated comprehensive plan. Although the comprehensive plan is not required by law, without one, every decision involving a site plan, a zoning variance, or subdivision could place the outcome of that decision in legal jeopardy, which, if challenged, would have to be defended by the town. With a comprehensive plan, and especially an updated and current plan, other governmental agencies will be more likely to view the town's applications for grants and loans in a more favorable light. In short, it'll show them that the town has a vision and their citizens have made that vision for its future and be much more willing to lend its credence and, more importantly, its money to our vision. The comprehensive plan is a living document. It will guide the town board, planning board, zoning board, ACA, RB, the CAC, and other boards and committees with review of the specific plans. The steering committee is pleased to facilitate, with the help of a consultant, of course, an open and active exchange of the community's visions for the town of Lewisboro. How lucky we are as residents to be part of this discussion and exchange of ideas, which will lead, hopefully, to the updated comprehensive plan process and, again, the ultimate document. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to John.
Hi, my name is John Wolfe. I have lived in Lewisboro since 1981. I worked at IBM for 34 years in a variety of areas, including semiconductor chips, mobile and wireless, and many others. I'm currently a founder and executive at Cognition, a business analytics company. So what does a comprehensive plan mean for Lewisboro and for you? Well, Charlene has done an excellent job of describing what a comprehensive plan is. But to be effective for Lewisboro, it needs to represent the views of the people of Lewisboro as much as possible, and that requires your input. This is your opportunity to share your opinion. Our goal is to engage as many members of the community as possible in a variety of areas, including land and open space, housing, clean energy, transportation, infrastructure and communications, commercial centers and their vitality, quality of life, and other areas raised by you, the community. It is important in this evolving world that our comprehensive plan represents the view and needs of the community today and represents the ability to address these for the future. The information that is collected is synthesized into a clear recommendations for the town board. That is why the community participation and input is so important to the process. Next slide. By way of a little background, and I think I'm the only one who was here in 1901 on this committee, the current plan was implemented in 1981. And in that period, IBM and Pepsi's campuses were both being built in Somers. Note that they're both now closed. But at that time, it raised a concern about commercial development in Lewisboro. Trains had just recently been electrified, making Lewisboro more desirable for commuters, and an era of housing development began. In fact, Lewisboro was one of the fastest growing communities in Westchester at the time. So the plan in 1985 identified 5 goals. Maintain Lewisboro as a residential community, have 4 vibrant hamlet centers, preserve open space and natural resources, and establish a regional position. Next slide. So as an example, one of the goals was open space and natural resource protection. Policy was to expand parks and recreation. And the action was the town acquisition of Oldfield and Leon Levy Preserve. In the 1999 recommendation update, which was not a plan, also led to enhancing the wetland buffer to protect an important natural resource. And now I'd like to hand off to Larry to walk us through the process of updating our 1985 plan and see what it will look like.
Thanks, John. And thank you, Charlene and Katie. Good evening to everyone. My name is Larry Mango, and I've lived in South Salem since 2007. I live in the Twin Lakes Village community. I have 3 kids, one in middle school, one who is just graduating from high school this year, and one in college. They've all gone through the local school system, and I'm involved in a lot of local civic organizations. In the time that I lived in Lewisboro, I've worked in Manhattan. I've commuted by train to Manhattan, to White Plains. I've worked in Greenwich, Connecticut. Currently, I'm commuting over the Tappan Zee Bridge to Rockland County. And I've also worked locally for a local company where I was advising local businesses on their real estate needs. And for a time, like many of you, I've worked at home, and my wife works at home full time. Outside of Lewisboro, I lived in New York City, I lived in New Jersey, and I lived in other parts of the metropolitan area, but I really love living in Lewisboro. And I do have to say that I do not like living off the grid, which I will note many of you probably also had to live off the grid for a period of time. I lived off the grid in Lewisboro after a major storm not too long ago for 10 days, and I prefer living on the grid. But back to the task at hand. So where are we now? Lewisboro has a comprehensive plan, as John said, that dates back to the 1980s. It was adopted in 1985, and it's amazing that for so many years, the town has developed thoughtfully under the guidance of that plan that was created over 30, almost 40 years ago now. But if you can just think of how many things have changed in that time and have changed in how we live, how we work, and how we play. I mean, when the current comp plan was written, Berlin was divided and we were in a Cold War with the USSR. The internet had just been invented in 1983, and analog cellular phones were just beginning to be deployed in the US. It was a really a whole different time. But this 1985 comp plan has really served the town well, it seems. And a study and recommendations were made in 1999 of the comp plan, and many of the recommendations from that time have been implemented. But the comp plan has been in place since 1985, and that's where we are right now. Where do we want to go? Well, The steering committee has now been meeting intermittently for a few months to lay the groundwork for an updated comprehensive plan. But we're still trying to figure out, and we need the community's help and probably some professionals' help in deciding where do we want to go. I'm sure that I speak for all those serving on the steering committee when I say that we each love Lewisboro and we love living here. And although there are many things about Lewisboro that I personally would not want to change, I know that there are many things that can be improved. And whether it's more housing and work from home options, more consistent electrical or other utility services, better telecommunications, or alternative development forms and uses in each of our hamlets, there are certainly some land use policies that I think should be reconsidered as a community. But none of us on the steering committee are professional planners, nor are we professional community facilitators. And we are looking to get some initial input from the community in our kickoff survey. But this is just a first step to make sure that we have community concerns top of mind as we continue preparing for the next steps in the process. So we need to really decide as a community, where do we want to go? And how do we get there? What are the next steps? Well, the steering committee is currently working on drafting our request for qualifications or a request for proposals, also called an RFP, from planning firms so that we can better understand the costs of engaging a professional to assist us. And when I say us, I mean the community at large. We expect that more extensive community outreach and input will come with guidance and facilitation from professionals. And any recommendations that the steering committee makes to engage a professional planning firm or a consultant would need to be considered by the town board. The steering committee is currently working to get an RFP issued this summer and be in a position to review responses and recommend a consultant by year end. And on this timeline, we would expect more intensive community outreach and the formation of subcommittees at some point in 2022. Can we look at the next slide? Throughout this comprehensive planning process, the steering committee will act as a facilitator. We will collect community input. We will recommend independent consultants, and we will work with consultants to make sure that we have community input and participation. And ultimately, we hope that we will be in a position to make recommendations to the town board based on the input and the expertise that we've collected and synthesized with regard to any of the comprehensive plan updates. But I think the most important circle on this slide is probably the blue one, the community input. Next slide, please. We've talked through the timeline a little bit, but here's how it kind of lays out. The project breaks into 3 phases, and I'll walk you through the key activities in each phase. Currently, we're in an introductory phase, and at this time, the steering committee is still very much working to understand what types of data and information we collectively have access to, and what resources are available to us from the town, the county, and the state. With this presentation, we're also launching an initial community survey that will be available for several months for the community to participate in. And with that survey, we hope that you'll participate and you'll be able to give us some thoughts about what you think are the most important issues facing the town. It's a short survey, should only take a few minutes to participate in. At the same time, we've also been drafting an RFP. Our expectation is that a professional will be engaged to assist in the update to the the comprehensive plan, and will also help us facilitate community involvement. Again, the steering committee's role is to make recommendations to the town board. The town board has the ultimate authority as to whether or not we engage a consultant and who that consultant would be. The next phase, which is the middle phase on this slide, is the community involvement phase. And we expect this will really kick in at some point later in 2022 after a consultant is engaged. At this point in 2022, we would expect significant community outreach and engagement to fully investigate community issues and opportunities. The steering committee will facilitate community involvement, but we expect to rely on a professional planning firm or other consultant for much of this outreach process. And that community outreach will eventually get us to a place where we could look at a potential plan update. So we expect that this part of the project, of the process, will take place in late 2022 or at some point even into 2023. But the timeline can change in many ways before we get to this phase. As an updated comprehensive plan begins to take shape, we would expect public hearings and additional input. And ultimately, any updated comp plan will be a draft and would only be a recommendation. The town board has the ultimate authority to decide whether or not a new or updated comp plan would be adopted and used going forward. Additionally, we can expect that some community issues will be worthy of additional study. Oftentimes, the comp plan process leads to additional master plans for specific geographical areas or for specific community needs. And with that, I'd like to pass it off to Mark, who is planning to walk us through how you can get involved early and stay involved in the update process. Mark?
Well, thanks, Larry, and what an excellent job you did on teeing this up so far. We're really fortunate to have the expertise and dedication from Katie and John and Charlene and Larry. And so I'm just going to walk you through a few of the steps by which, or phases of involvement for the community to start to connect with our program and ultimately engage with us and provide feedback to inform the plan. So my name is Mark Robbins, and I live in the Vista section of South Salem, and I moved here 5 years ago with my partner Betsy, my son Matthew, and our recently adopted German Shepherd Bella. And my professional background is as a real estate developer focused on habitat management, green building, and energy infrastructure projects. I have a small consulting firm in Connecticut, MHR Development, and our focus is on working with municipalities and nonprofits to improve their buildings for economic and environmental sustainability. And with that is a focus on clean energy infrastructure, renewables, combined heat and power systems, air quality, indoor air quality, and resiliency measures. So I come to this committee from a technical background, and I look forward to being involved as we update the plan to reflect some of the developments in technology that were enumerated by Charlene and Larry and John previously. So I would like to talk to you about the introductory phase. So as Larry described, our project has 3 phases. We really want you to get involved early and to stay involved. And Katie's made available several pathways for that as we've thought through how to keep people involved and continue to engage them in the process. So we are now in the introductory phase, phase 1 of a 3-phase project. And ways to get involved, as you're doing now, tuning in for periodic updates. We'll be presenting quarterly town board meetings. We'll be airing regular updates on YouTube, just like this one. And also you'll be able to respond to our launch of the community survey. The survey is available now. So stay tuned till the end of this presentation for the link. Next slide. So now the second phase of the project will be about community engagement. Specifically, you'll have the opportunity to join various community events, answer surveys in addition to the one that we're circulating now, and participate in pop-up events, like as when you may enter the grocery store or a town park. You'll have the opportunity to answer a few questions that may be appropriate to the moment, or part of our long-term vision. You'll also have an opportunity to join a subcommittee. Immediately coming to mind are the subcommittees representing each of the hamlets, but we'll probably further develop committees to represent various sectors of the community. The committees will be designed to solicit input on specific topic areas, and then we'll form subcommittees based on community input and recommendations also from the consultant. So Charlene's led the charge on helping us to develop the first draft of an RFP, request for proposal, which will solicit the professional support from a planner. And so once we get them on board, that'll be another opportunity for us to refine the outreach. And of course, there'll be ongoing project updates on YouTube and the town board meetings, as I mentioned. So we'll go to the next slide. So during the final stage of our project, we're going to build on the activities from the community engagement phase, and we're going to add in a more official layer whereby community residents can offer their comment on public hearings that will be conducted by the town board as they vet and consider the components of the master plan. And this will be your chance to provide comments on the draft that's presented, and before ultimately before it's approved by the town board. And so now I'm going to pass it back to Katie to wrap up tonight's presentation and remind you about next steps.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you again to everyone, to the community for listening, and to the committee members. I know there was a lot of hard work that went into tonight's presentation and has gone into this process. And I know there will continue to be a lot of hard work that goes in as we continue on down this path. As I'm sure it's clear to everybody watching right now, this process is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. But we feel really fortunate to be running this marathon with all of you, our community members. So as you heard tonight, there will be many ways to get involved with updating the comprehensive plan along the way. The first one, and is live right now, is to respond to our kickoff survey. You can see the link on the screen. The survey is available on the committee's page of the Lewisboro Town website, lewisborogov.com. If you're just going to lewisborogov.com, you can find us under committees and councils. We will also have paper copies of the survey available across town shortly. We will be listing those locations on our website as we refine them, but in general, we're going to try to have copies available at the townhouse, at the planning office, at the library potentially, and at each of the local post office locations. Subject to change, but that's what we're targeting right now. Please take the survey. Please let your neighbors and friends know about the survey. We really want to hear from as many people as possible who live and or work in Lewisboro. Going forward, our town website page will be a great place to stay up to date with us on all of our activities. You'll find resources, project information, minutes from all of our meetings, agendas for past and future meetings. We hope to see you on that webpage frequently. This concludes tonight's presentation. Thank you again to everybody who helped make this work so well. And thank you to everybody watching for joining us and for getting involved in the Lewisboro Comprehensive Plan update process. Thank you again, and good night.